Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. I want to say first things first, get them out of the way. I want to say, by all means, if you haven't already, please subscribe. And when you do, please tap on the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time a new video of ours comes out. Okay, first I'd like to apologize. What happens is life gets in the way. We've not been posting videos as quickly as we really like to. And I've had a bunch of dental work done and all. Who cares? All I'm saying is we're here now and we're having a good time. We've run out of space here, so I said, you know, if I get my shovel head back together, we'll have some more space to work on the project bike. Anyway, I've been asked a lot of times about installing intake manifolds on shovel heads, which is pretty much the same on the old cast iron Sportsters as it is on shovel heads up into the late 70s. I think it was 79 when they changed from the O-ring type manifolds to what they call the rubber band ones, which has a big wide rubber sleeve. We're working with the O-ring type. This is a 77 bike, even though these are aftermarket heads. These are STD heads, and it's the same. First thing to realize is when you're mounting a manifold, and this one happens to be a manifold for an SU, also known as the sexiest manifold in history. Most people are very fond of these manifolds. Now, I don't know for sure, but I believe David Mackey actually designed this manifold. Anyway, they're beautiful. So we're going to put this manifold on and always take a new pair of O-rings to start with. And the thought is you should never put O-rings in dry. Now, when you're installing the cylinder heads is when you fit that manifold. And this one is currently fitted as close as I could get it. They aren't always perfect. You've got different brands of manifolds, different brands of heads, but it's pretty close. This is nice. When you're installing the cylinder heads, you turn them to the right position for the manifold. You keep tightening the heads a little at a time and keep checking that manifold fit. And that's when it's done, is when you're installing the cylinder heads. Okay, so now we're going to put on these O-rings, and they are nice new ones. And you should always install O-rings wet rather than dry. Now, nice new ones are certainly pliable, but it takes a little bit of effort to get them to stretch. But that's the way I've always done them. And I hope everybody enjoyed that. I probably gave my little O-ring the virus, but and you get that in place, and it'll stay there. And you tell it to stay, just like a good doggy. Okay, now we'll get the other one on. They are big, heavy O-rings. So to stretch them into place here is not real easy. And there is the second one. He said, as he was out of breath, okay, now we're going to put the manifold in place. There it is in place. And there it is. There is the first O-ring, and if you missed it, we'll do the second one. We just kind of roll that little O-ring, and there it is. And there it is. Now, when you do this, I have been known to do it by myself, and it's really quite an exercise. But if you have an assistant to come and help you, like I do, you're in luck. John, would you please come over here I should probably move this way so you can come in. Oh, you got to push it in. Don't just trust it to do anything. It's got to stay right there. Got it?
We'll find out.
You'll be the first to know. I'm lucky I have help. Okay, now what we're going to do is first we're going to look at this clamp. Now, if you look at this clamp carefully, you can see it's an aircraft type stainless steel clamp. And I believe these probably came from S&S, don't quote me. But before I install them, I put a little bend in this stud. So what happens is when the manifold is bolted in place, or clamped in place, that clamp just rounds right around the manifold and O-ring. I don't like the solid clamps that a lot of people use. The main reason being they don't form themselves to the manifold and O-ring. Okay, so now what we need to do is get this thing on here and be sure you've got yourself oriented to where you know it's going to go. And now I'm going to drive John crazy, and I'm going to drive the cameraman crazy as I try to get my hands in here to do this. But there's the first clamp in place. And there it is. And that's pretty happening. Oops. So what I'm going to do is tighten it up a little bit, not a lot, so I can still keep moving it when I get the other one on there. Okay, there's the first clamp, and looks pretty happy to me. We'll try to get it spaced pretty evenly on there, get a nice even clamp on the manifold and the spigot coming out of the head. I'm going to move that stud out of the way, and I'm not referring to the cameraman or my assistant over here. All right, let me see if I can get this clamp in here. Now this is always a lot easier if you do it before you put your motor mount on, the top oil line on, anything that's going to be in your way. It's really a kind of a luxury to be able to do the manifold with everything out of the way. And there's the second clamp going into place. I really feel spoiled having all this help. And we'll take up most of the slack on this clamp. Now, as I tighten these, John, what's going to happen is it's going to pull it even more into place. So just keep it pushed toward me, and the clamps will pretty much center it. Because I think you've really been doing that, to tell you the truth. Yeah, you can go ahead and look into the inside of the manifold if you can there. And you'll see if it's looking good or not.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Okay, hold on to the manifold. I'm going to rotate the clamps some more. You on it?
Got it.
I'm going to loosen this one. And I'm going to put it right about there. See, that gets a lot of stuff out of the way so that I can actually run my fuel line and anything else that I need to run there. So I'm going to tighten this one about that much. Then I'm going to tighten this one. You have to stagger them just a little bit. Thank you. Let me get that one. Make this one up a little. There we go. Now that's just wonderful. At this point, we can go ahead and use a wrench to tighten them up. And I will check. I'm ready to go to the other side. I'm going to check a couple of things. I think you can probably let go of it, John. Thank you. Oh, you did. Okay, now if I look in here into the manifold, put this on its dim setting, I can see where things are lining up in there, and I can put my fingers in there. This thing's pretty deep. Yep, and I can feel all those edges and things are really lining up nice and smooth. The other thing is that I want to make sure when I put my bracket on that it's going to line up real well, both with the motor and with the manifold. A lot of people forget to support manifolds with a bracket, and if you think about them just hanging on by those two O-rings and clamps, that's why a lot of carburetors and manifolds fall off. I put a lot of them back on that people just didn't realize they needed to have a bracket on there. Well, that takes care of that. We're at the end of our video, and what I want to do is show some parts for the new project bike. So we've got the manifold handled. I'll do a final tightening on it. I don't think anyone needs to see that. But what I do have, I got to turn around so I'm not microphone tied up. One of the things is this seat bracket. I don't know if I'm going to be using this bracket or not. If I do, I'll have to shorten it to fit this seat, which I'm very excited about. This is, I believe, a reproduction. Nothing real special, but it's the right shape and size for the shape and size of the motorcycle. And I think it's going to be real comfortable for me. I'm going to be using a stock seat bracket. And I'm going to be using a stock seat post. And that's because I'm not just going to build this thing, I really want to ride it some distance. And when we get to it and install this thing, we will get through the science of this whole spring apparatus that this seat post entails. And this seat, I believe, is either for an old Harley K model or a Hummer. I believe it's a reproduction. I believe it's really neat, and I'll probably end up using it and having it recovered. At any rate, that pretty much does it for now. So we got the manifold done on the Shovelhead. We'll have the Shovelhead running soon and get back on this thing. So until then, see you out on the road.